Today's topic, Roth conversions. Not a backdoor Roth, not a Roth contribution, but a Roth conversion. An extremely popular topic, maybe one of your largest long-term tax plays and savings, but it usually doesn't apply to our target audience this early in the game. This is something that shows up later in the planning cycle, but today's video will show you how valuable this can be, why we're always thinking about this, even in our accumulator years, and you guessed it, we have another live case study video because they seem to be popular. People like to see how we actually make this stuff, right? So after this video, I'll jump onto the screen share. We'll actually jump into the financial planning software. I'll have some sample clients pulled up and we'll walk through a Roth conversion, the pros, the cons, why you should be thinking about it, the tax savings, all of it. So stay tuned. That's all coming up next. Okay, we are live now for our case study. Let's start with what the clients look like. In full disclosure, this doesn't really have an effect. This is me trying to give you a good example of who we make these videos for. Usually our physician audience, but we also realize there's a lot of other high income accumulators that are tuning in. So first, let's just start with what the clients look like. So ages are here. We have 2 kids. Want to walk through some of the savings as well. And the whole premise here is where we are in terms of income. We also have Social Security. We don't plug in Social Security. So even though we have it listed here, see how it says annual amount none, doesn't have a huge effect on what we're doing here, but just more or less giving you the full breakdown. So we're doing backdoor Roths. We have an FSA in here, or excuse me, an HSA in here, private practice 401k, which we're maxing out every year. We have a joint investment account, Joe's backdoor Roth. We got a Penn 403b here. We got 2 529 plans. Very common setup for a lot of our clients. I always say you can be very dangerous with 2 employer plans, a good joint investment account, and then your backdoor Roths. And then in this example, kids, so we have 529 plans as well. This is to show you that they're saving. You can see they're both maxing their 403b and the 401k plan out. That's important. As we sit here today, if we knew future tax rates, this would be so much easier. I would not have as many gray hairs as I already have coming in here on the sides in my 30s. So they're coming in too quickly. And here's why. This stuff is stressful. We don't know what tax rates are going to be. If we knew what tax rates, this would be so much easier, but we don't. So with a lot of our clients in those very high income tax brackets, right now, as we sit here, we will always make the assumption that, hey, we're likely in almost all circumstances, we want to take advantage of every pre-tax dollar we can today. This is really vital for this topic. So what does that mean? It means we're going to be pretty darn heavy in pre-tax dollars, which is the whole premise, the whole buildup of why these Roth conversions are extremely powerful later. Now, the one thing we can do to offset this is we will start to do backdoor Roths. And I always say backdoor Roths aren't super sexy from a value perspective. We're getting $6,000, $7,000 in there, depending on what year we're in. And we do it slow and steady. It's just trying to build up the base. In a perfect world, when you retire, you have a good amount of pre-tax assets, a good amount of Roth assets, and a good amount of non-qualified assets where we're about capital gains as opposed to ordinary income taxes. So I use Joe and Jane as an example here because this is a very common situation for high income accumulators, right? You do want to take advantage of all those pre-tax dollars. And this is another reason why I wanted to make the video, because we will also get questions on, but I also have this Roth 403b. Why am I not putting money into this Roth 403b? And I'm going to show you why in a second. It's still based on the premise of tax rates are going to stay similar going forward. And that's the hard part, right? If taxes go up, if taxes go down, all of this changes. So it's not perfect. There is a lot of moving parts. Literally, the tax code changes. At least, it seems like every time a new president comes in, we get a huge new tax update. It seems to be the new thing. But even there, we'll still get little updates here and there. So it's ever changing. Income's changing. Growth rates are changing. Inflation's changing. It's always moving. But here's what I want to show you first. So again, putting a lot of money pre-tax. Really, the only Roth thing that's happening right now is backdoor Roth. Again, very common for a lot of our clients. So let's come back in now and let's hit some reports. So let me first show you why RMDs can be a problem. And they really can be a problem. And let me show you why. So let's first do a cash flow chart. Now, here's the downside to this. Some of these reports we can show in present value. Some of them we can show in future value. I like present value. Present value is digestible. We get it. Future value scares the bejesus out of people because we can't fathom numbers that large. Now, luckily on this report, I can show you both in a way. But when we get to the other numbers, It's all future value. And I'll probably say that a few times throughout the video because I think it's important to continue to make a note of that. So let's turn on both right now. So this will update here. Now, here's where we don't love RMDs. Let me also show you present value, future value quick here before we do anything else. So this is saying, hey, in that example, now they were doing good on income. They're maxing out their retirement accounts. They're putting $60,000 per year into a joint account. They're doing really good on their savings. But you can see in this example, this is saying, hey, you're going to die with $125 million. Most of us sitting here are like, holy moly, that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. But let me just show you what that means in present value. So here's future value. Here's present value. 27 million. You're probably still sitting there saying, man, wow, oh my gosh, 27 million. That's horrible. What am I must be poor in that example. Obviously, 27 million is still a very large number, but still, again, going into the future here, really good savers. There's a lot of moving parts in this plan, and it's a sample plan. These aren't real clients, but this is what a lot of our households look like. So that's just giving you the context of future value can look huge, where present value is not as crazy, right? So 126, crazy, 27, still pretty wild, but in this high income accumulator, really good at savings, that number shouldn't be that scary. It shouldn't be like, oh my goodness. But let's come back. So that's present value, future value. So now what I'm going to show you is this column here. It's called plan distributions. The only thing you see in plan distributions from our side of it right here is going to be RMDs, required minimum distributions. Now, some good news has happened with RMDs. In the past, there was no updates for what seemed like decades, and now we've gotten two pretty large updates in a short period of time. Before, we'd always used to say they started at 70 and a half. 70 and a half was its own pain in the butt because you got to calculate this half year, and then they got pushed back to 72. Now they're the whole way back to 75. Now, it varies between 72 and 75. I should say 73 and 75 based on your birth year. But again, younger accumulators, it's currently age 75. So for Joe and Jane, no RMDs. And then you hit 75. RMDs fire up. Now, this is a future value, but we're going to use future values the rest of the way out. So you got to stick with me. I'm going to break it down into a percentage at 1.2 to show you, total tax savings. So RMDs, these are just RMDs. This is what Uncle Sam is forcing you to pull out of your pre-tax dollars. And this is why we tell all of our clients in the accumulator years, it's not that simple that your tax rates are going to go down when you retire. And here's your main culprit. It's these RMDs. So you can see they crank up. They start just a little bit less than 4% and they work their way up. So they go up a little bit every single year. So you can see they are really cranking up. You're getting forced to pull out millions of dollars. Again, I'm going to say it a million times on this video, future value. But still, you can see how this can start to become a problem. So how do Roth conversions play into this? Well, there's going to be this beautiful time, which I'm going to show you next. Do income taxes. There's going to be this beautiful window, and you can start to see the window appear here. So for Joe and Jane, these are all their working years right here, right? You can see them working taxes, normal taxes, right? But then you can see they just fall off this magical cliff. And this is what we always say, I call my golden window. Here's our golden window right here. And nicely, it's actually gotten wider. Before we were thinking 70 and a half, now it's all the way out to 75. That's 5 more years of these Roth conversions. And even after 75, you can still do them. It's a little bit harder. I mean, you saw how much income's coming out. So you're trying to fill up tax bracket. That's really the whole premise behind this strategy. So here you can see this golden window, right? And this is where we want to start to do Roth conversions. What's a Roth conversion? Well, we're just going to go into our pre-tax assets and calculate how much we're going to move over into a Roth. We are literally forcing a tax bill. We are taking a calculated tax bill on purpose. Now, other things we got to keep in mind. We got to keep an eye on IRMA. If you're in the accumulator years, the last thing you probably want to think about is Medicare, but IRMA is based on Medicare. If you make too much money, you can get a surcharge on your Medicare. We're going to keep an eye on your tax brackets, right? We don't want to forcing dollars back into these high tax brackets. That's the whole point of trying to fill up brackets. And then on top of that, in those tax brackets, we're also going to keep an eye on capital gains. So it's not as simple as, well, let's just go in here and take $1 million conversion in year one of our golden window. You got to work it a little bit. Now, I'm going to show you some charts here. Remember, there's a little bit of income here because the software is pretty smart. It's taking the actual month of when they retired. So there's still a little bit of income coming in here this last year, but then you really hit this beautiful window here. So what I want to show you is what these Roth conversions can look. So we have those here. Now, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to come back to this cash flow. I'm going to update this. I'm going to take you back and we're going to walk through all these again. So now let's do this, but let's click on plan distributions. Helps if I can click on it for you. Okay. So plan distributions. Now what I want to do is I build in a few different scenarios. So here's our base plan, right? You can see we're taking an RMD of 868,000. Now what I want to do though is let's kind of look at a few other scenarios. Let's do some challenges here. So Roth conversion, 50,000 per year. Now, Again, it's future value. So I did put inflation on this. Starting today, it's going to have some inflation on it. But still, this is actually a relatively small number compared to where they're headed by the time we would start doing this at age 65. But it's still a neat thing to see. Now, you won't see it on here. So, for example, like in 2046, we actually started doing the Roth conversion. So 50,000, 50,000, 50,000. And just 50,000, I only did it for Jane. So Jane is the only one doing this right now. It doesn't really matter. It could be 25 for each of them. It has the same effect. But now look what happened. Because we did Roth conversions for that, call it 9-year window in there, notice how these are lower now. Now we increased the tax bill. I'm going to show you tax bills next. We increased the tax bill for the 10 years before this or 9 years before this. But notice how these RMDs are lower now. We are controlling the narrative. You did Roth conversions in years where we knew the tax code. We knew what the tax bill was going to be. We could really calculate that. We could be pretty darn precise. Between a good CFP and a good CPA, you can be extremely dangerous with this year in and year out and be almost spot on with these. So you can see they're getting lower. Pretty neat, huh? All right. Let's get a little bit crazier because again, 50,000 based on whether this plan is growing, it's not a huge number. So the other one I ran was, well, what if we get crazy with this? Let's do 100,000. And you can see on here, what's going to happen? These numbers are even lower. And why is this important? Again, it's controlling your tax story because this is getting forced into tax brackets. You might even want to do more. And I'm going to show you why you might want to do more. So let's come back and now let's look at same thing. Let's look at those income taxes. So on this, you can see it still didn't do anything crazy. I believe, I know it was on the 50,000. I'll come back into the brackets here in a second. But you can see now if we scoot down here, you increased your taxes. So you went from paying about 17,000 per year. And also this window here where it shows 0, highly unlikely. The only way that plays out is if you pretty much go all into your Roth IRAs, but you don't want to do. You don't want to go deplete all your Roth IRA here. So you're likely pulling out money here pre-tax as well. That needs to be factored into this conversation, but we're leaving a lot of room on the other side. So I'm not too concerned about that. But in this example, it would be really almost impossible. You're either living off, I don't even know. I couldn't even plug in a food that would be that low, right? It would be really hard to do this. I mean, pretty much impossible. So you got to live off something unless you're utilizing Roth or you're very efficient in using your non-qualified account on balancing capital or gains versus losses. Maybe you're really good at that, but this would be really hard to pull it off at least that low. But you can see we purposely increased your tax bill here. But now look what happens later. 75, lower. You're looking over here on the far right side. Lower, lower, lower. It's having that effect in here. Now, as I start to wrap this up, again, this is just to show you why we think about Roth conversions and why they're powerful. I also then took an Excel spreadsheet. All right. So now on this Excel spreadsheet, this is your base plan. Here's the $50,000. Here's the 100,000. Now it's a future value. I know you're sick of hearing future value, but future value, total tax bill from the day we started retirement until age 100. We ran longevity to 100 for Joe and Jane here. This was $27 million in taxes. After you get done vomiting here, again, future value, these numbers are going to be outrageously large. But this was $50,000 of Roth conversions. Your total tax bill is lower. So by forcing you into a little bit higher tax bracket in that golden window between retirement and RMD age, we lowered your overall tax bill, your overall total tax bill by 7%. And then here we did 100,000 and now we lowered it by 8% on your total tax bill. And this is the 100,000 is getting compared back to the base plan. So it was kind of 50,000 versus base, 100 versus base. So no matter what your tax bill would be, I don't think any of you would ever be upset with, wow, we lowered our total tax bill by 7% over all of our retirement years or 8%. It's a big number. And that's why Roth conversions are very powerful. But for many of us in the accumulator years, we're not thinking this far down there. I brought up IRMA, which it's Medicare based. We're not worried about Medicare until 65. But as you sit here today as a high income earner, a very good saver, this is why you need to keep an eye out on RMDs and Roth conversions, but also more importantly, why we're not too concerned about what other Roth buckets you can take advantage of. Now, if you have like a mega backdoor Roth that you're not wasting any pre-tax dollars on, slam dunk, we're still going to go for that, right? If your 401k allows after-tax contributions and then you can convert those to your Roth, that's not missing out on anything pre-tax. So things like that, those unique circumstances, we're still going to go for them. But if I just come back here one more time, right, and let's just kick out this one. Let's just come back into the base facts. This is a perfect example to show you that your tax rates may not be lower when you retire. You can see here, this is their working years. Here's their golden window. This is retirement. Look at the effective tax rate. Mid 30s, off a cliff, golden window, love it. And then look what starts to happen here. It starts to get right back up to where we were, almost in those mid 30s, off a little bit lower. But this is the hardest part about any Roth conversation, even if it's just as simple as I want to make a Roth contribution versus an IRA contribution, pre-tax versus Roth. If taxes are the same in the long run, you didn't get hurt either way. But if taxes go up or taxes go down, it's going to affect that conversation. But we just don't know, right? That's the hard part of these Roth conversions. But regardless, you can still control your narrative better because those RMDs are going to happen. They're going to be forced. So I hope this is helpful. These case studies seem to be getting very popular, so we hope to do more of these. If you have questions, anything you want to see, let us know because I love this. It allows me to kind of get into the weeds and also explain it to the YouTube channel. So I'm going to turn off the live case study and I'll come back to you on the regular video here to close up shop. And there you have it. The power of the Roth conversion. I realize some of that's a little bit harder to comprehend in terms of that future value. I wish someone took account of that. You could make that into some probably crazy drinking game on the amount of times I said future value in it. Future value makes it a little bit harder, but the actual context of the Roth conversion doesn't change. And in these high accumulator years, you need to be thinking about that. But at the same time, this is why we don't need to get too carried away with Roths today. Take advantage of your backdoor Roth, and then we'll have that window for Roth conversions at some point between retirement and RMDs. And maybe 65 for retirement, maybe you're going to retire sooner than that. Maybe RMDs continue to get pushed out further. That window can continue to open up. And like I said, with all Roth conversations, if we knew future tax rates, it would be so much easier. It would not be this hard topic of what if. You'd be able to give really consistent answers, but we don't know that. So it's also continuing to build up all your buckets. And one of the best plays to do that is make your pre-tax contributions, lower that tax bracket while you can here in these high income years. Do your backdoor Roth IRA every year just to continue to build up that Roth bucket. And then don't forget about your tax or your non-qualified account to also build up that bucket. You want to have a good balance in all three of these buckets come retirement time because it gives you options. So I hope you enjoyed the Roth conversion video. I hope you loved the case study. I know I noted it towards the end of the case study there, but if you have any other things you want to see, anything I can do live, please let me know. Share some comments there. As always, thanks for hanging out with me for the last 15, actually almost 20 minutes probably on this one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next video. Oh, wait. If you have not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. And then also, if you have not clicked on this little bell icon, you can click on that, and that will also give you a notification every time we release a new video. Now, thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next video.